Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and should probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Hello, Grots, and welcome to the Chapter Approved Challenger deck overview for Chapter Approved 25-26 season. I think we've got away from calling Chapter Approved a funny name that doesn't mean a whole lot. We are now just calling the Chapter Approved deck each year 25-26. Watch before they change it on me next year. I'm here with Mark. I'm here with Tony, who has an overheated camera. So tonight he is cosplaying as Karn the Berserker.
Yeah. Although the mission deck next year, if they're keeping to the current cycle, there won't be one because it'll be 11th edition at the time when they would release the next mission deck. So,
well, yeah, but maybe it would just say, because you know, like when it came out with 10th, it was the Leviathan mission deck, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep. The Prion. It's all like this little fluffy bit of narrative stuff. And the thing they launched it alongside this time was actually an Armageddon book, wasn't it? There was an Armageddon fluffy crusade narrative storybook that came out the same sort of time as this chapter.
Quite fun, because Armageddon is such a fun thing throughout the history of 40k, isn't it?
Although this one they used, there were three armies in it, because I took a flick through it through a workshop store last weekend. The three armies of note in there were Space Wolves and Black Templars, and they were fighting off a incursion by the World Eaters on Armageddon, because why not?
Yeah. Well, because the first war for Armageddon was World Eaters and Angron.
Was it? Is it not just always been Orcs? I always thought it was always
no,
mostly
that was
Orcs.
The second war for Armageddon was the Orcs. So
okay.
The first war for Armageddon was caused by some crazy Khornate cultists sacrificing loads of things, opened a warp gate, and Angron set for it and caused a war. The Grey Knights sealed it all up and then killed everybody involved, as they do. That's where, if you'll remember, the famous thing with the
Space Wolves.
Space Wolves comes in while they hate each other. But they covered it all up. So everyone referred to Gazkul coming as the first war for Armageddon. But actually, that was the second war for Armageddon and the third war for Armageddon. And this is the fourth war for Armageddon, which is harkening back to the first war for Armageddon, which was the World Eaters. So there we go. Bit of pointless lore. There you go.
Is it ever pointless?
No, I love it. I love also the fact that the Orcs call Armageddon just the big scrap or whatever.
So I apologise for the title of this episode being a little... well, the deck is the Chapter Approved deck. The Challenger deck is a subset of 9 cards inside the Challenger deck. And I'm probably getting ahead of myself here. John, let me know when you want to move on to another page.
No, that's precisely what it is. So if we go back to the start of 10th edition, we had... was it Gambits, which were very unuseful. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to secret missions for an entire year. I don't actually think I ever completed a Gambit in the year that we had them.
I've never seen one even declared like that or any of this stuff, yeah.
I feel like with secret missions, I maybe considered doing one like one time and never did it. So this is the third take on the catch-up mechanic that they have now decided to have. And if we go on to the next slide, we will see the how the Challenger deck is going to work, right?
Yep.
Or how the Challenger...
big overarching question we want you to consider as you go through this episode is, are you ever going to bother doing this? And if so, when?
No.
Straight away.
The episode
there. In there with no. Right, we're done. Thanks very much, everybody. Cheers.
Yeah, great week. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. So actually, Challenger came up this week for my opponent.
All right.
My opponent did score his Challenger card, and he ended up beating me 80 points to 30. So, let's just say...
Is this your Death Guard game?
Yes. So I was 7 points ahead in turn 1, and let's just go with a Challenger card. As a player becomes a Challenger, if at the start of the battle round, they have fewer VP than their opponent. So in my situation, my opponent had... no secondaries who could score in turn 1, and I had 2. So I scored 7. So the difference between the VP was 6 or more. So that player remains the Challenger until the end of the battle round. So you're only doing this once at the start of a battle round, right? Mm-hmm. So not per turn, battle round. So while you are the challenger, you draw one challenger card at the start of the command phase. Each challenger card is either a stratagem or a mission, and you can basically do either of the two. You can't use rules that change the stratagem cost. You can't generate CP from using the stratagem. And if you get to...
Just to show you what we mean by that. So each card is generally both a stratagem and a sort of like a mission objective thingy. And you pick one or the other as you draw it. That's kind of where we're going now with that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's in a nutshell, it's literally as simple as that. So if you're ever behind by 6 points, you will get one of these cards. But they're doing it at the start of the battle round, not the turn, which maybe makes sense, I guess. So you're likely to get at least one challenger card in most games, I would have thought. I think the 2 games I've played with it, both players have had a single challenger card. So it's going to happen. It's common that at the start of a battle round, someone is going to be more than 6 points behind. Is it going to be massively meaningful? Then I guess we're going to look at each of the cards and decide if it is, because you get a random card, right? You can't choose what you're going to get. You just get a random card. And I've got all 9 cards in the next slides.
Okay.
So just imagine.
Cannot change the cost of stratagem on a card. Rules that generate CP can't be triggered by strat. If you haven't used it, you discard the card. And if you use it, discard the card. So you discard the card that you've drawn at the start of each battle round, regardless of whether you've used it or not.
Right, yeah. But I mean, if you were 6 points behind, you would get a new random one to try again.
Each round. Okay. And there's 5 turns in a game, and there's 9 cards. So there's a good bit of variety in there. Okay, yeah, all right. That makes sense.
So at least the mechanic happens. So that's the first thing I want to say, because in the previous games...
So this is a tactical thing you can do... Oh, you're never going to do it on the first turn, are you?
No, because you can't be behind.
You're never going to start the battle round on 0-0, which makes very sense. So you're only going to draw 4 a game at most.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we can start looking at cards if you like. Okay, so we have all 9 challenger cards to look at to see if we feel they are better than Secret Missions and Gambits.
Which we got right first time and didn't have to do any on-the-fly editing whatsoever.
And John will definitely have not left the 6 minutes or so of just slowly editing all these back together again.
I honestly can't believe you guys think PowerPoint is better than Google Sheets, but okay.
All right, so these are the challenger cards that you could draw. These are the first 3 of them. So you'll see on the top that you've got the stratagem bit that you can use or the additional mission bit that you can use. You get one or the other, as John mentioned earlier. What's that first one?
So, Burst of Speed. At the end of your shooting phase, 1 unit from your army, excluding units that have made a move this phase, can make a normal move of D6 and then cannot move again this phase.
And it's worth noting that this 0 CP cost that you see there is identical on every single one of the 9 cards you're going to read. They all cost nothing.
Yeah. So you've shot at an opponent and you can potentially move back into cover, I guess, or something to that nature. I mean, that doesn't seem horrible.
I mean, D6 is a bit random.
Yeah.
But D6 is a lot more than none.
True.
Well, no, it doesn't mean that you shot at them. It's just the end of your shooting phase, and the unit from your army that
didn't move.
It can't have already moved.
And this, do deep strikes count as a move?
Yeah, they do.
I don't know.
If you arrive from deep strike, you count as having made a normal move.
Yeah. So this is more like a unit that had a heavy weapon. You can shoot it using the heavy keyword, and then after it's shot, you could potentially move it back out of line of sight or something. It's not a horrible boost if you're 6 points behind, I guess.
It's free.
So you could do that, or at the end of your turn, you get an action or a
criteria.
Focused effort. 2 models in 2 or more units from your army made 1 or more attacks against the same enemy unit this turn, and the models in that enemy unit lost 1 or more wounds as a result of those attacks.
Almost always take that or use that because it just says attacks. It's not melee. It's just we shot at a thing.
Yeah, we literally killed 1 dude in any squad that we shot with 2 units, 3 victory points.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong.
It's the easiest 3 victory points, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you draw that, you're laughing. That's a good one to draw probably at any time, just about.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, these are designed to be catch-up mechanics, and you start the turn with a difference of VPs of 6 or more, you're going to get 3 VP for doing what you're going to be doing anyway. Sure, why not?
Cool. Next one, then.
Challenger Opportunist Strike. In your shooting phase, 1 unit of army that is not within engagement range or 1 or more enemy units. Select 1 enemy unit that is not within engagement range of 1 or more units from your army, and basically you do grenades to them within 6 inches. So it's like a shooting attack.
Mm-hmm.
Just bonus grenades. Like, grenades statistically do 3 mortal wounds, so just a bonus of 3 mortal wounds to anyone within 6 not in engagement range.
Why not?
Cool. Or, the end of your turn, 1 or more enemy unit from 2 or more different units were destroyed this turn.
So this is a lot weaker, that mission, isn't it? Because you got to destroy it. So if you're playing Imperial Knights...
Yeah, that could potentially be very difficult to achieve against Knights or any Nidzilla army.
Yeah, or even things like Custodes and that could be a real tricky one to do.
Yeah.
Because you've got to destroy 2 models from 2 units, and those sorts of armies that take multiple units to bring down a target. It's because if you do, let's say you were playing Custodes, you think, right, I'm going to try and get this. I'm going to shoot out 2 targets. You're going to knock off 1 guy out of each 2 units for your whole army shooting. And it's really going to bugger you up because splitting your fire like that is a bad plan.
So I've come into this episode thinking that this catch-up mechanic was going to be much like the other ones, which is you get to a point in the game, you decided you've utterly lost it, you've got nothing to lose by throwing it all away and doing some stupid win or die win condition. But this is every turn of the game. You could be getting some bullshit ability, really, to try and help claw it back. Yeah.
And like I said, in the game I recently played, my opponent got one of these and he beat me by 50 points in the game. So I'm a bit confused as to...
Were you ever 6 behind him at any given point?
I was 6 behind him for the whole game after the first time, probably.
You could have drawn these at that point.
I did draw them, yeah. I didn't get ones that was particularly useful for my point in the game, I guess.
Okay. So I suppose it's added randomness in that regard, then.
Force of Breach, I think this is one of the ones I got, right? In your movement phase, 1 unit from your army that has not been selected to move this phase until the end of the phase. Each time this unit makes a normal advance, it can move horizontally through models and terrain features. I mean, that is nothing for my Blood Angels with jump packs, right? So I wasn't doing that. Cool.
Yep.
So in my shooting phase, 1 unit of your army that is not within the deployment zone is wholly within 9 inches or 1 or more battlefield edges. You just get 3 points. But you have to do an action. And at the time that I got this in the game, I was getting my ass kicked and I couldn't afford to do an action, so I didn't manage to do it. So this one didn't help me at all when I was behind, actually.
Okay. And actions are terms that are defined in the rules booklet that you get with this stuff now. So actions are in there and it tells you what can do actions, what can't do actions, and what they all mean and so forth. So
basically any unit that's got OC that has not made an advance and is not in melee combat pretty much can do actions, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and the usual not an aircraft and all that shit.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So it could be useful. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
A lot of these have got a pretty good chance of getting 3 victory points, haven't they?
Yeah. So far.
Nice. Let's keep going.
Seems to be the case. Let's get back in there so I can sprint it along. There we go. Right. Next one. Next 3.
Renewed focus. In your shooting phase or fight phase, 1 unit in your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight until the end of the phase, this model can reroll hits and wounds of 1. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. It's never going to be bad.
It's good on any sort of high toughness, high weapon skill, ballistic skill unit. And then the other thing is, in your shooting phase, 1 unit from your army is more than 15 inches away from all other units in your army. Do an action, get 3 victory points. Both are good.
Yeah, that's fair. Both
especially if you've got units that are shit at shooting.
Yeah, or you've got like 1 lone model in a unit left. You could just run off into the corner and do an action.
backfield sitting around and doing nothing kind of infiltrators, for example.
Yeah, how often do you have them doing nothing in the game? There you go.
That's pretty nice. But in all honesty, I'd really struggle to not use it as a CP. Sorry, use it as a strat.
Yeah, I mean, renewed focus on a good melee unit is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Or on the right shooting unit, yeah, absolutely. In a leaf blower army, perhaps, yeah.
Pivotal moment. In your movement phase, one unit for your army until the end of the turn is eligible to shoot and declare a charge on a turn which advanced or fell back.
It's a bit situational. It's only going to help melee armies.
Yeah, but
no, not necessarily, because if you're a shooting army and someone has based your shooting unit and you can just freely fall back and shoot, then yeah, cool, great.
And in this case, you literally destroyed. More enemy units were destroyed this turn. One or more enemy units were destroyed this turn. 3 victory points. Like, super easy. You kill one thing. Cool.
Yeah.
I think I prefer the ones that aren't actions, honestly. Because usually if you're losing, I feel like you don't want to be doing tons of actions. Maybe that's the trick here.
You kind of need all your units to be doing stuff and interacting with your opponent's army rather than just... Well, but then again, points matter towards winning the game.
Yeah. In your movement phase, Great Haste. One unit of your army that has not been selected to move this phase until the end of the until the end of the phase, add D6 to the move characteristics of model in this unit. That's pretty cool. It's not an advance, it's just a D6 on their move.
It could be really powerful if you've got the right army.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got Dante and some Sangria Guard, add D6 to their movement, then add an advance and charge. It's a lot of movement. Over the line, end of your turn, one or more unit from your army, excluding aircraft or battleship units, is within your opponent's deployment zone. So this is a mini behind enemy lines, 3 points.
Yeah. Which you'll get or you won't, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
Again, this feels like one of the more situational ones, because if you've got an army that's really fast, that's really not really a big deal. But remember, you're going to be behind as well. If you've got a slow army and you're a bit behind, you're going to struggle to do this.
Yeah.
Strikes me that these are all a bit too subject to variance, because we point out some of them are no-brainers and some of them much more situational than others. So a good or bad draw can absolutely skew the game one way or the other due to no fault of anybody's, really.
Yeah, strategic retreat, start of your shooting phase, one unit for your army, excluding monster vehicles, is not in engagement range. You put it back into strategic reserve. So just pick up a unit anywhere, excluding monsters and vehicles. That's cool. Or at the end of your turn, for each of the following areas, one or more units for your army, excluding aircraft and battle shocks, wholly within, you're going to get 1 victory point up to 3. Your deployment zone, the center, no man's land, your opponent's deployment zone. So arguably, if you've got a unit within 6 of the center, he will be in both no man's land and the deployment zone. So do you get 2 points for that?
Yeah.
Because technically you would be in the following areas.
That sounds technically correct. I can't argue with that. And I think GW should put an FAQ out to clarify that the two areas are mutually exclusive and you can't be in both the same. Which is a problem on their part for having written it this way, but yeah.
So, I mean, that's a very powerful card to get, because it feels like most of the time you're going to get 3 victory points, or most of the time you can just pick up a unit and put in reserve. That's cool.
Maybe, then again, maybe it's deliberate to try and push people into the center. Who knows?
Yeah. All in, your fight phase, one unit for your army has not been selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, you can make a 6-inch pile-in or consolidation move instead of 3. Very strong for melee armies.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very strong for melee armies.
And then self-preservation is an action in your shooting phase. Ends of the turn if that unit is more than 18 inches away from all enemy units. So like you said, you've got that backfield objective unit. They could just do an action. They're 18 inches away from the enemy. Cool, 3 points.
Awesome.
So I think you're right what you just said, Mark. There's some cards that look crazy powerful. The ones that I've drawn have been mega anticlimactical. Harbored Power is the last card, and you're shooting your fight phase. One unit of your army has not been selected to shoot or fight. Until the end of the phase, models equipped in this model have hazardous, but you get your choice of lethals or sustained. Or you just get 1 victory point for each objective marker you control, up to a total of 3.
If you losing and you're behind, it strikes me that you're unlikely to be holding a ton of objectives. So that sounds like a bit of a shit card to me, because granted, gaining lethal and sustained is great, but the downside of hazardous is you're probably going to lose some stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a very double-edged card. I wouldn't want to draw
Yeah.
that.
I'm not sure that one's one of the more powerful ones. It's a bit like All In is a really powerful one for melee armies, but if you're playing guard, it's fairly useless.
I suppose if you have like a Vindicator tank, would you be willing to take sustained one on your Vindicator tank for one hazardous roll? Yeah, probably, sure. That's probably a pretty good trade-off, right?
Yeah.
1 in 6 chance to take mortal wounds, but I get sustained one on my 9 Vindicator shots.
Yeah, you're probably right.
See that?
Yeah. There's nothing to stipulate who this couldn't be used on. Would you take hazardous on your Knight Castellan to get sustained one on every weapon that he's got? Which is a lot of weapons.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a point. You could put this on something really stupid like an Astraeus.
Yep.
Or a Thunderbolt gunship.
Good on a Thunderhawk gunship, actually. Yeah, you're right.
Just anything big with a lot of guns is very powerful.
Or even just volume of attacks from things you're attacking in melee. Yeah.
Yeah, because of course it's either. I'll be more hesitant in melee because of course your smaller, cheaper things are more likely to die from the hazards.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But if you've got like a Bloodthirster.
Yeah, if you've got a big old melee monster, Greater Demon or like a big old Nid monster or something like that, an Avatar of Cain, give the Avatar sustained hits. You know.
Yeah,
I find myself wanting to balance the randomness of some of these cards being good and some of them being less good by saying something along the lines of draw 2, pick 1.
That would have been. That's maybe the GW should hire you. There you go.
Yeah.
I think that would have been it, because the couple of times I've drawn, it's felt worthless. Because just, like I'm a melee army, so this one just doesn't help me, or my models already fly, so this one doesn't help me, or I don't have anyone left to do actions, so this one doesn't help me.
But then again, the flip side is, this is a brand new mechanic that's been added that didn't exist before. It's helping armies that were behind at a point in the game, giving them bonuses they were not previously getting, and they're not paying anything for it. So complaining about it might just be a bit gauche, really.
Yeah, they're not big victory points either, and if you're more than 6 points behind, I don't see them helping you catch up all that much. It's going to be rare that one of these is going to make a big difference. But
maybe.
Could make a little difference, which is quite fun.
Getting the right unit in place where they could or couldn't be previously, or the reroll ones to hit and ones to wound, could result in a blowout and a key moment.
Camera's still too hot. 9.
Yeah, we had you back for a moment there, but then now you're gone again.
Then it died. So Khan's coming back. There we go.
Woohoo! All right.
Yeah, so I feel like it's got to be an improvement over secret missions and what was it, gambits, because no one used those things ever.
Well, they were just pointless RNG win magic button if you roll an unlikely thing to happen sort of cards.
And these, if a tournament's using them, I don't see many reasons why they wouldn't, unless they took a calculated decision that these unbalanced the game beyond what they wanted to do. You're going to have to be aware of these, and they could well give you or your opponent a benefit. So just be aware that they exist and that you can do them and benefit from them, really.
Yeah, most of them aren't going to make a huge difference, but some of them could make a big difference. So that 6-inch pile-in could be game-changing or consolidation.
Yeah. I think part of me thinks that this is overcomplicating the game even more than it already is. Because they in the name of game development, 40k keeps getting more and more and more and more complicated, with more things to keep track of and more stuff to bookkeep your way through, and got to be aware of this, got to be aware of that.
Times of 3rd edition and Rhino Rush.
Yeah. Which is good in a way, because more depth and things to pay attention to can be good, just not being taken too far. And I'm not sure. This probably isn't a tipping point, but it's certainly something else adding weight to the scales.
Yeah. What do you reckon, John? Do you like them?
I'll reserve judgment. I think certain things just seem like they'd be much, much better for certain armies, right? Like
Hmm.
And I do sort of somewhat agree with Mark, and like it seems like they always just keep adding complexity, and then a new edition comes and everything gets reset down to like a less complex stage, and we just build it all back up.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely adding another layer of kind of cognitive overload, aren't they? Because now you not only have to remember, they cut all the strats back, but now here we go. Here's 9 more strats you've got to remember.
Yeah, and remember to use them in the turn, and remember to do this extra mission in the turn.
So it is. To me, it feels like more noise for probably not anything that's of material difference to the game. Like in your game against Death Guard, you would have got one of these every fucking turn. But if he was sitting on 80 points and you were sitting on 30, they ain't going to do shit.
I think that's the thing. Yeah, I think the super close games were already super close, right? Like the disparity between the armies in some cases is probably a bigger problem than me getting 3 victory points if I can do an action on my infiltrators. You know what I'm saying?
Because 6 victory points really isn't anything.
No.
So if that's coming up, then it was a really close game anyway, so you didn't need it. And if it's much more than that, well, you're buggered anyway. You're not going to do anything with it.
I do wonder as well on like some of those missions where like if you hold the objective in turn 5, you get like a 15-point victory swing. So like I could be behind the entire game knowing that I'm trying to take that final objective in turn 5 and make 15 points, and we get to the battle round in turn 5, and I also have a challenger card now because I am 20 points. You know, like there's quite a lot of times in the game where like you know that you need to get the 15 in the last turn and you need to complete a secondary to win the game. You know, like going into turn 5 20 points behind is not.
You're talking about tactically controlling how far you are behind someone to ensure you get one of these bonuses at a key time and hoping it's a beneficial one.
I mean, you could do that in turn 5, yeah. You know, like you've got a secondary like behind enemy lines, it's only going to score you 2 points, and you're thinking like, I need to do a lot in turn 5. Maybe I just don't score behind enemy lines. I take the command point with me into the final turn, and I hope I draw something here that will score more than 2. You know, it's an interesting one. Or maybe like, for example, engage on all fronts now, you can actually get 1 point from it. And if that 1 point's going to be the difference between you being 6 behind, you're like, yeah, I'd rather be 6 behind and draw one of these than get 1 point from engage on all fronts, right?
Yeah. I don't know. To me, they just seem more noise in the game that isn't really going to make much of a difference. I hate that. I really hate that mechanic of scoring at the end in turn 5. I always prefer to go second anyway, and I've played a game before where it's like, well, you're going to score at the end of this battle round, and I'm going to score now, which means I've lost the game. There's no point playing this last round.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen that as well.
I find that really frustrating when a close game is decided like that, because you're going to get the opportunity to have a whole turn where you can score and I can't do shit about it.
The counterpoint is that if you score at the start, then you might as well not play that out at the last turn at all, because nothing you do in the last turn can affect the way the game plays out.
Except that, of course, so many of the missions in that now, you can't score in the first turn.
Yeah,
so unless you're in a position where you can do some horrendous alpha strike, which with all the terrain on the board now is very difficult to do, it's very easy to get in a position where the person who goes first can't get any points in the first battle round, but the person who goes second gets a shitload at the end of the game when you couldn't do anything about it.
I don't think these are a home run, but I don't think they're a fumble either.
No, I think they're better than what we had before, but I think I sort of agree with you, Mark. They need one more iteration, which is fine. I suppose they are improving the game over time, you know?
Yeah.
They're fun. And if you're playing a sort of a casually game, but if you're playing a casual game, you wouldn't be using the mission deck. So,
well, maybe you are. There's something in the new mission deck which I don't know if you're aware of, Tony. A new feature that they've put in. They've put a lot more thought into 1,000-point missions.
Yeah,
the mission deck, which is a thing.
That to me is a lot more exciting. I've been having a lot of fun, and I've pushed my local gaming group we've started playing 1,500-point games again, like we used to in the olden days.
They've also got a whole bunch of asymmetric missions in here as well.
Yeah, they're quite fun. Quite cool. Have a look at those. But I just think playing slightly smaller points because of the way that points inflations happen. Yeah, I really like the asymmetric missions.
Yeah.
But yeah, playing slightly smaller games, but slightly smaller points, but on the full size table works a bit better because everything's so much cheaper in points than it was a few years ago. You've got so much more on the table. To me, it feels like a lot of the movement and skill involved in sort of deep striking and screening has kind of gone out the window because with a lot of armies, you've just got so much stuff you can quite happily screen out the whole bloody board.
Yeah, I get that.
So cutting that back a little bit just makes the game flow a bit better.
I wonder what the game boards have demonstrably shrunk from when they were 6 foot by 4 foot, and it's a commercial decision to make armies larger in terms of model count because then people need to buy more stuff in order to fill out their armies, which makes logical sense. I can't really argue with that too much. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It does seem to play better. The games take a little bit less time. They feel a bit more tactical. They feel a bit more nuanced because you haven't got enough space to bring all the toys you want. But it's still big enough that the game's not unduly warped by so silly little games like 500-point games, even 1,000-point games.
Yeah,
are so warped by SKUs because there's no counter to them or ridiculous power units.
Yeah,
I think this mission deck is more of a hit than the previous two, based on that.
Yeah, I do. I really like the 1,000-point missions. I really like the asymmetric missions. I think these are the best iteration of this sort of nonsense, but I think they're more of a gimmick than actually doing anything useful.
How did your opponent feel about them?
I mean, it's hard to say. I think it just if you draw something that's you can use, then it's super useful, right? Like if you draw that reroll hits and ones and wounds a one, and you're about to make a charge with a big melee unit in your turn, you know that's going to happen, and that's great. It's so strong. So I think it's situational, right? Like these will change some battle results. I guess that's fine. I guess we're just going to have to deal with it for a year and see how it feels.
Yeah.
Because the chapter approved now is like every year, I think.
Yep. Unless they ditch it for 11th ed, but hopefully they don't, because I'm also much happier with this being a year cycle than I was with it being 6 months. 6 months.
Yeah, I am as well. I don't feel quite so ripped off. Not that I've bought these.
Yeah.
That's okay. Usually your opponent has them. If you use the tabletop battles app, but all the cards are in the app now, and it even tells you in the app when someone is a challenger, so you don't forget to draw the card.
We started just buying one set for the group.
Yeah,
that's fair. That makes sense.
Because it just got a bit silly.
And I understand Workshop have done what they've done with every other single deck that they've done in the last few years, which is these sell out very, very quickly, and then you can't get them for a number of months after the initial burst of sellout has gone.
I think it was the second set, and mine finally came in about a month before they switched to the new set. And that was frustrating.
Which is a shame for a product being marketed as essential to more serious competitive play.
Yeah. So that's those. I think we're all.
I was going to say, spin on a slide. There we go.
What should they be watching next then, John?
We can go through the list the video where we talked about 10th edition Space Wolves. Do you remember when we did that video? I was saying that the Tech Priest was a lot better than the Tech Marine because the Tech Priest gives your vehicles rapid fire. So watch that video because you should watch that video. But let me tell you what's something that's quirky, because I said to you, I bet we can find something super quirky that would be super useful, and I've got it, right? It is an impulsor with 2 squads of las fusel eliminators inside it. So that gives you 6 las fusels, which is essentially 6 las cannons on an impulsor, which you can use the Tech Priest to give rapid fire to. So your impulsor can have 12 las cannons on it, and obviously the Tech Priest can repair it. So if you were looking for your quirky, how do you make a Tech Priest very good, then you run impulsors with 2 squads of eliminators. because that gives
And
you
a
12.
priest running along behind it.
Yeah, that gives you 12 las cannons, and I think they have 36-inch range, so that would be 18 inches range for 12 las cannon shots.
That
pretty-
sounds like some bullshit right there.
It's quite expensive, though, right?
A Land Raider with its 8 shots being broken, and you think, well, hang on, that's 8 shots hitting on 4s. This is 12 on 3s.
Yeah, you could run it. I mean, you could run like that could be on the off the moment target as well, right? So reroll everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the rapid fire range would be 18 on that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so it's pretty good. And I mean, if they do kill the impulsor, it's not like the las cannons are lost. The guys just spill out the back, and I mean, you could have another impulsor waiting to pick them up. You know? I don't know.
It's very silly.
I don't know how strong it is, but it's certainly daft.
Yeah, exactly. So watch the video on the Space Wolves. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can click the link in the video description.
Yep. If you think there's some value in what we do, if you get any kind of useful information or even just a laugh, and you fancy buying us a cup of tea out of the price of a cup of coffee a month, whatever.
Or some way of cooling my camera down.
Yeah, absolutely. Just supporting us on Patreon buys Tony someone to stand next to his camera and blow on it while we're filming these streams to try and keep it cooler, then that would definitely be a thing. And so you wouldn't have to look at Khan's ugly mug. Or maybe you want to. I don't know. I'm not going to judge.
He's a hell of a guy.
All right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We will see you in the next video.
Cheers.